First Gen Wealth, we talk about an entrepreneur's journey to creating wealth. I've got a lot of friends, a lot of colleagues, a lot of peers that they're brought up with money and the ability to handle and figure that out. Finding dollars has always been easy. Finding a deal, making money, I can do that. What to do with it to make it continue to earn so we do have that generational wealth, that's the missing piece. We want our money that we've earned through blood, sweat, and tears to now go to work for us. So that money is making money while we're sleeping. Hello, welcome to First Gen Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Woodworth. This is season 2, episode 1. Took a little hiatus there, a little longer than expected, but we're back. Going to run about 12 more episodes of this season, take us through the holiday and then take another break. But thanks for joining us today. My brother, Jim Woodworth's with me. We're going to talk about, Jim wanted to come in and talk about self-directed IRAs. And I'm throwing him a curveball this morning because I want to talk about something that's a little bit more relevant in this moment in time. And that is the idea of landlords being greedy and, basically getting a bad rep for trying to do good by themselves, good by their families, and, invest in real estate and trying to make that dirty word profit, right? So let's start with, where do you think this idea of a greedy landlord or an unscrupulous landlord and the bad rep, where do you think that comes from, I think, origin-wise?
I had a feeling we were going to get into this today, but it's
fresh on my mind, bro. We just had a social media war last night, so it's
a little
fresh
bit of a pissing contest.
A little pissing contest, yeah.
So, I think
it's important. I want to talk about what, and people, we'll get into it further.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
From an origin, it should be because all of season 1, we've talked about investing in real estate and all the glamour and the potential and the income potential. But we really haven't talked about the negative aspect of it, and some of that is perception.
Sure.
Whether it's reality or not, there is the perception of the greedy landlord, the slumlord, those types of people who don't take care of their properties, somebody who's trying to push low-income tenants out, continuously increasing rent. But it really comes down to supply and demand. There is a significant lack of supply of housing, which creates demand, which is driving prices up.
Yeah.
So as a landlord, why, just like any other business person, whether you're selling tchotchkes or owning a restaurant or whatever it is, when there's opportunity to advance your business and make more money, why wouldn't you take those steps to do that? Now, you're dealing with a person living in a home, a family, so you have to treat that very delicately, in my opinion. But there's a time and place to increase rents, especially when they move out.
Yep.
You make some improvements to the house. I've never evicted somebody because I needed more money in that place.
Right.
It's always been, dude, this tenant's a slob.
Right.
Or they're annoying.
They're not paying.
You know what I mean? They're not paying.
Yeah.
Or so it's never been a situation where I'm like, I want to get this guy out. I've got one guy paying, he's been in the same place for 24 years. He's paying $350 a month.
You just don't mess with it.
You can't. Well, I'm gradually messing with it, but I inherited that tenant.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do, he's on a fixed income. I know his financials. He can't afford to go anywhere. There's nothing out there.
So it's interesting you say that, because I did a little bit of research this morning, and the government understands that there is a gap between the supply and the demand, and therefore what the market rate for rent is versus what somebody maybe can afford, right? And so they've got programs,
Sure,
rental assistance programs that are designed specifically to fill that gap, so that no matter what, a tenant doesn't ever have to pay more than 30% of their income.
Their gross income,
for rent, right? The problem is I don't think a lot of I don't think they a lot of tenants maybe research that. Maybe there's, a pride factor there. I don't know, but there should never be a situation, because I looked at a 1-bedroom, Shiawassee County, the MSHDA rent limit was like $1,016. A studio was like $876. That means the state of Michigan, the Michigan State Housing Department, has said this is what the market can bear. This is what market rent should be or is. And we're here to bridge the gaps between that rate and what you make as an income, right?
Sure.
So I guess back to your point, like it's irresponsible as a business owner, and that's what you are. When you're an investor in real estate, you're owning a real estate business. It's irresponsible to you yourself as a business, to your family, to not compete with the market rents. So, if you're trying to get $700-800 for a 1-bedroom, the data says you're low.
Yeah.
And
throughout the state.
No, this was Shiawassee County.
Okay, Shiawassee County. Okay.
This is Shiawassee County, which is where we are. But even still, okay, so you shouldn't say, hey, landlord, that's too much money. We should say, hey, tenant, there's programs designed to bring you up to par with what the market rate of rent is.
Or better yet, like if you are in that lower income threshold, how do you get out of it? And
that's the conversation. That's the conversation.
That's really it. Because, and I know there are people who like getting them above that threshold. It's like, it's extremely hard and difficult to do. But a lot of the people in this area aren't seeing it because they hear there's no jobs in this area, or there's no good paying jobs. There's plenty of opportunity, and there's plenty of people in this area that are making a lot of money doing a variety of different things. So there's opportunity to get yourself upward in the income, making higher incomes. And that's really, I think, the biggest problem, not the gap between what you can afford and what the market is. It's how can you afford more?
Yeah. How do you better yourself to make more per month or more? Yeah.
Whether that's through a different job, whether it's through another job, whether it's through, smarter ways of running your business, whatever it is, there's plenty of opportunity out there for most people in that situation to advance their career, make more money, and get yourself into a better position.
Yeah. So we took, there's a deal locally here. We bought a 14-unit apartment building. Seller
Dad used to live in that one.
Huh?
Our dad used to live in that one.
Yes, he did. The seller was way under market rent, like drastically under market rent. But he knew what he had, and he knew he was under market rent. But he didn't want to monkey with it, right? But he wanted the price that he knew it was worth if they were market rents, right? So as an investor, there's like, okay, if I want this asset and I got to pay him what he wants, right? To a point. I mean, there was some negotiation, but there was a bottom line.
Yeah.
There was a bottom line. Therefore, I'm building into my pro forma, into my deal sheet, these rents are going to have to come up more in line with market rent. Now, from the outside looking in, they're going to go, oh, he's buying it and jacking it up and kicking everybody out. No, not. I mean, it did happen in a few cases, but we had to justify our mortgage payment.
Yeah, especially if you're taking out any type of financing to get it. The bank needs to see that the numbers work.
Yeah, and the only reason it got sold, the idea got sold to the bank, because they saw it was drastically under market, and the rents were drastically under market. The demand supported that theory, right? Like it's filled now with market rents, or I think a little below, quite frankly.
Still,
yeah, and it's like right now it's an okay deal. Like we're breaking even. I actually pulled the numbers because I was curious. We've lost money this year without depreciation.
Because that's not a good thing.
No, that's not it.
But the tax write-off, Randy.
Oh, yeah. The tax write-off. No, there's real money.
Yeah, when you're losing money.
When you have to write a check to float an asset, that's a bad
It's
situation.
not an asset. At that
Right.
point.
It's a liability at that point. So, this idea from the outside looking in that you've got these greedy landlords, and this is what you can deal with when you break out of the mold, right? Because maybe you're that guy that's making $15 an hour or whatever, and you see a better way and you want to start the journey. What nobody's telling you is you might get some haters out there, right? And we saw it last night. Like,
Yeah. Well, it really depends on what community you're investing in too. If this is a bigger market, that's less of a deal.
true.
You know what I mean? So here where we've got a small, local, pretty tight-knit community, that 114 unit apartment building represents a much greater percentage of the overall housing. And so, well, I mean, 14
it's
units,
still a drop
but, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
it has a bigger impact and people see it because those 14 people or 14 families that are living there know more of our circle, or, the degree of separation is less removed. And so I think that's where you see some of the more negative in a community like this, because if you're in Grand Rapids and you do the same thing, it's not news.
Nobody even notices.
But as a tenant, you really have to, that's where just the education piece, you have to understand, like, holy cow, I've been paying way below market rent for 10 plus years.
Everybody knew.
Because you showed me those numbers when you bought it. I was like, holy cow, like I can't, they were like, in the
there's $275. One of them was $275.
Which is, that's what, those are
you'll lose the price.
1980.
Yeah. So we bought it. We spent some money to, borrowed some money, right, to improve it. We went through a bunch of the units, made them better, did a bunch of exterior work, and improved the asset.
It looks nice too.
It does look nice.
Much better.
And now, we're in a situation where if everybody pays, right, and the laundry income comes in, we're gonna hopefully make a few dollars. But right now, we haven't. Like 2023, it's a loss. Like real, not depreciation loss, not a tax loss.
It's a cash flow
we
loss.
have wrote checks to float that property. So, you're thinking from the outside looking in, these guys are good, they're going to kick all these people out. But no, you're just taking care of your business. We're taking care of the asset. We've got to bring it up to a certain rent level based on our note and our mortgage, right? When we were fortunate with that one, we ended up with a 15-year rate lock. So we've got an amortization for 15 years and a term for 15 years, which is unusual. And we bought it in a good time that was 5.5. Because today, if we were to buy that for the same price, we'd be in real trouble. We'd be in real trouble at those rents, at those market rents. We'd be in real trouble. So, the perception on the outside, of evil landlord jacking up rent, it's only half the story. Like, if you want to get involved in real estate and you want to actually profit, that's the point, right? We're not doing this as a charity. We're not doing this as a time killer, right? At the end of the day, it's to make money. That's not a bad thing, because when I make money, when anyone makes money, you can do more, right? So we improve that asset because we've maybe made some money on something else. We've got to make money on that.
Right. Well, you bring up a good point. When you talk about taking that asset and actually losing money on a monthly basis, there were some comments made about, all these out-of-towners and foreign investors are buying up all these properties. That hasn't happened.
No, please point me in their direction.
There hasn't been any foreign investors that have closed on a deal in the city of Owasso in my lifetime.
We've been down here.
So,
yeah,
we own a title company, so we see that stuff. We know where they're coming from and who's buying, and that's just not happening. So that's number one. But number two, they don't want to invest here because of what you just said. They're not willing to take that loss for that first 2 years to see the overall potential of what it can be 5, 10, 15 years down the road when your mortgage is paid off. The reason why you can do that, or I can do that, or we will do that, is because we live here.
We live here. We love our community,
and we want to see this community thrive. And we're willing to sacrifice the short term a lot more than any outside investor would ever do, because they need to see a much bigger return right now.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to put their dollars here.
If it's not making money day one, they're moving on to the next piece.
Which is the majority of the properties we're involved with. I can't think of a scenario where I jumped in day one and we're making money.
No, because we've invested an incredible amount. So we look at some of our commercial stuff, right? Where we've got a retail tenant, and that's what to me, the idea for someone to say, and it was said, that local jacking up rent and driving businesses out.
We support the destruction of small businesses.
Yeah, that was actually said. Like so here's the reality, folks. We spent a bunch of money to build out a space, to make it work for that tenant. We don't see a return for like 5 years.
Right. If they've got a 5-year lease, like it's like usually 3.5 years into it, the 4th or 5th year where we're starting to see our initial investment come back.
That's not profit.
Which isn't profit, which is really, if you look at it from the outside looking in, it's really a shitty
It's
investment.
a stupid thing to do.
Like, what are we doing?
I
question myself all the time.
And all that negativity harping on you. It's like, you know what? If then fuck it. Why are we doing it? You know what I mean? Like, if you can't see what we're doing here, screw it. We'll do it somewhere else, or not do it and save our money.
Yeah.
Right? Because we invest here because we want to see an improvement in our downtown. We absolutely need these businesses to survive for the reasons we just stated. We pour out our hard-earned money. Sometimes we borrow it, we're liable for that money. We got to pay it back. Well, how do we do that? Well, they got to pay the rent that we've negotiated, that everybody's agreed on, right?
Yeah.
And then they have to survive. So we end up being cheerleaders for these businesses, and
even the businesses that we're not involved with,
it's all part and parcel.
It all, like, this building supports that building one way or another. The more foot traffic we have downtown, the better for all of our properties.
Absolutely.
So there's not a single business. I may not like some business owners, but there's not a single business business that I want to not see succeed.
100%.
So
100%. I saw it, a few times. I hope they go out. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, there's nothing good about a vacant space at all. Like, the more foot traffic, the better. I get it. Everybody has their opinions on, what they want to see downtown, but then do it. Damn it. Shut up. Yeah. For the people that are actually spending the time, the money, and the effort to do this stuff, especially our downtown retailers. Like,
it's hard.
How dare you?
Yeah, it's hard.
Who have, and you're never going to hear somebody that's succeeded, that's worked and done this. You don't hear from them. It's always the do nothings, done nothings, never going to do anythings, right? That's who's bitching. That's who's running their mouth. And they aren't going to do anything. What I'm saying is, when you get yourself out there, when you break out of that mold, when you decide, hey, I'm not content in this 9 to 5, I want something else for me, for my family. I want to make money. That's okay. Do that, please. You're going to get some haters. Yep. So, we had a separate text thread going last night, right? And one of the people on the text was like, well, are you drinking? I'm like, yeah, haterade. I'm drinking haterade right now. I don't drink. So that, I wasn't drunk texting or drunk, I was just pissed. At a certain point, I'm coming to the defense, because I wasn't, the whole idea, that whole situation online started with properties we're not even involved in. Right. We have nothing to do with.
But as soon as that post, I get text message like, hey, is this guy hating on you guys or what? I'm like, well, not me. I don't think so. But
in reality, there's 120 freaking downtown buildings. We're involved in like five or six of them, right? Between the two of us. Small percent. It's less than 3%, right?
Yeah, right.
So we don't control anything. We don't have some sort of dictatorship over rent, and we're not involved with those. But we're getting dragged in, and I felt the need, like, you know what? Screw you. You don't have any idea what is going on behind the closed doors. And when you start bashing and turning our downtown into a negative situation, I got to get involved for the reasons you just said. We need them all to survive. Yeah. We want them all to survive. We want them all to thrive. Expansion, second stores, like, let's go. Like, I want you to grow and make money. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, what people don't understand, there's some greedy landlord out there who wants all the rent. No, they just need to make make money. Right. They need to make money, just like the business owner. And they're in that business owner's corner just as much as anyone else, because it's always cheaper to keep her. That's what they say about divorce, right? Anyway, It's always cheaper to keep her. Same with a tenant.
Right.
It's cheap cheaper to keep them because when somebody moves out, you got to go in and do all the
Right,
things.
renovate it to some extent, or sit for 6 months without anybody paying you. Yeah,
Well, and
it can be a significant burden. So it is not only cheaper to keep her, but I can think of scenarios where like you don't want to lose a tenant, and I always hope that my tenants and I have a great relationship where we can communicate through some hard times. Where I recall one tenant, like a very seasonal income. So we renegotiated his lease. I said, okay, you're going to pay more through these months and way less during these months to make this work.
I just did that with somebody that we own together. I didn't tell you, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks.
But I'm glad you
Right,
think
but
like. I'm glad you think like me.
I'd much rather be flexible in that.
Yeah.
And not only because it's cheaper to keep her and we want that same tenant, but it creates that negative vibe when you have two businesses that are going out of business and now all these businesses are shuttering. And then there's reported of, numerous other businesses shuttering their doors. Well, who?
Yeah.
That's not happening right now. So let's not add to that narrative. Let's figure out what good is happening. I mean, the old JCPenney building is freaking amazing, is what we've done with that space.
Yeah.
12 new businesses or close to it.
What we got?
Or soon to be 12.
Yeah,
I think
there's-
9 or whatever it is.
Whatever.
But it's, you're creating that little bit of a economic hub where it didn't exist before, giving some businesses an opportunity to like feel out their space, hopefully grow out of it, move into a different space. Like that's kind of like, an incubator of little retail spaces that can grow from that space. But that's another building that, significant investment. We're not going to see any return on that for quite some time. So
no, we're not. But you know what? The guys that are there, the tenants that are there, man, they're loving on each other.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Ruben and Ashley own Ashley's Dance Shack. They were just on Tony's podcast, Tony Nash, No Easy Way Out podcast. And Ruben wrapped that whole thing up. Hour-long podcast.
Yeah.
By the way, we're probably going to run over my typical commuter podcast time limit of 25 to 30 minutes. We're going to make this like a 2-part situation because I've got so much boiling. We're going to get fired up here, but no, Ruben wrapped up that podcast just loving on the tenants that are in there. The golf simulator and Dead Bread and Gentry, and got a new one opening up, and they all kind of. E-bikes, Sandlot Sports. There's great people. They're all collaborative. They all kind of try to help each other out. Just a great thing. But you're absolutely right, dude. We might make money on that one if we hold it for 15 years. Like that was significant.
Yeah.
But
much more than we initially anticipated. But
yeah, that is probably our fault. Probably my fault. But that's okay. Sometimes it costs more. What can I tell you? And then when we get some roadblocks where some people maybe didn't do the things they were supposed to, and then they're gone, right? And there's a significant amount of rent. Well, we gotta change gears, but we're in it. It'll make it through, and it'll end up being a good investment in the long run. But having a 30,000 square foot vacancy downtown, that don't jive.
Yeah.
And it's like we can look at that and just leave it alone, right? We didn't have to do that. But the reason is we want, number one, we're hearing it. Like rents are expensive. If you've got a downtown retail store, and a typical retail is like 20 by 100 ish, give or take a couple feet in either direction, but it's about 2,000 square feet. It costs like $2,000 just to keep the bills paid from a landlord's perspective. Like it's almost $2,000. I mean, your taxes alone on a building like that are going to be from $450 to $600 a month. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
So you have not made anything but paid your taxes for the first $600. Then you got insurance, and what's happening with insurance?
Oh yeah, cost of rebuilds going way up, so insurance premiums going way up. Everyone's
insurance
seeing that,
premiums are
no different in the commercial world.
So see right there, dude. Already that was the 25-minute timer. I'm just getting started. So we're gonna wrap this part 1 of episode 1, season 2. We're gonna wrap it up in just a few minutes, but we're gonna just keep talking, my brother and I.
New segment, Randy's Rant. Is that what this is?
Randy's Rant. Yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. But we're gonna go into a second podcast. But I just want to wrap up that idea of, we know that's expensive, right? So from a landlord's perspective, there's a certain amount of rent you have to charge from a retail just to break even. and we don't want to break even. Otherwise, we do something else.
Right. And,
Buy
and
Tesla.
you don't see, you don't see all this other development happen if we're just breaking even.
Correct. So with that, it's like, all right, so how do we get an option where these people that can't afford, absolutely not happening, they're not going to pay $2,000 or $1,500 a month to have a storefront. They can pay $5,000, they can pay $6,000. Well, you do something like JCPenney, where you build out a bunch of them. Now all your costs are under one roof, and you can rent out smaller spaces for an affordable rate. And then they can, right, like you said, it's an incubator. They can grow, and hopefully they spin off. I can see that happening with a couple of those.
Oh, sure. Yeah, totally.
Spin off out into their own thing. If they buy their own building, great. That'll really placate the haters, right? You got a business buying a building for their own business. That's terrific. I mean, I love it too. Like, I don't need to own everything. I don't need to own anything. I just want everything to work. I want it all to survive and thrive. So with that said, we're going to get into we're going to keep going, but I'm going to wrap up this conversation for episode 1 of season 2. Jim, sit tight, because we got more to talk about. So tune in next week for the continuation of Randy's rant. Just kidding. Of the First Gen Wealth podcast. Thanks for tuning in.